I have a very personal question for you. Where and how do you find God in your life? And I'm asking this question on this particular Shabbat because the Ten Commandments, the revelation at Sinai, that moment, that drama in Jewish history where God gathers the entire Jewish people and reveals himself to the Jewish people. Now, when the Torah was given, it seems as though we received the Torah willingly. Naaseh V'Nishma. The Jewish people said, we'll do it. We'll ask questions later. Right? Nobody put a gun to their head. But something else in this week's Parsha implies otherwise. It says, Vayamdu b'tachtit hahar, that the Jewish people, when they were about to get the Torah, they stood underneath the mountain. Tachtit, tachat, tuchas, sorry, it means underneath. Underneath the mountain. How do you stand underneath the mountain? You can't. And the Medrash teaches, Melamed to teach that God took the mountain, our Sinai, held it over the Jewish people's heads and said, accept my Torah or else. Now that's a very difficult midrash, very difficult rabbinic passage because it seems to contradict what I just said before, that the Torah explicitly says, Naaseh V'Nishma. When God came to the Jewish people and said, you want my Torah? They said, yes, and then we'll check it out afterwards. We accepted it willingly. And the midrash, the rabbis in this part of the midrash seems to imply that God forcibly put a gun to their head, took the mountain, accept my Torah or meet your maker. Well, which is it? My teacher of blessed memory, Rabbi Grumblatt, suggested that what this medrash is trying to teach is that it looked like the Jewish people willingly accepted the Torah, that no one put a gun to their head, right? And no one did. However, put yourself in their shoes for just a moment. Imagine you were a slave in ancient Egypt. Your father was a slave, your grandfather was a slave. And this Moses man comes along, coming from God, and you see your oppressors being brought to their knees with the 10 plagues. Then you see the splitting of the Red Sea, last week's Parsha. And then what happens now? That same God comes to you and says, hey, would you like my Torah? What are you going to say? Of course you're going to say yes. What choice do you have? This is the God that is omnipotent and all-powerful that you saw with your own eyes. So when it says in the Torah, Naaseh V'Nishma, that the Jewish people accepted the Torah willingly, Rabbi Grumblatt suggests yes, but it was with a compromised free will. Because what else were they going to do? Of course they're going to accept. If God is so obvious, he's so in your face, you live in such a God-intoxicated society, you have no choice but to say yes. And that was the existence that they had then, where accepting the Torah was a very natural and normal thing, because why wouldn't you accept the Torah when Hashem was so obvious and clear? But today, my friends, we live in a very different world. We live in olam, which is the Hebrew word for world and hidden, right? God is hidden. It's not so simple, not so easy to see God. And people are so skeptical today. Even to profess you believe in God. The way I started this video, how do you find God? People would find that very preachy and primitive. But we believe that Hashem is there. Just because we can't see him doesn't mean he isn't there. And that's our challenge. And that's our task as the Jewish people, is to find Hashem where he is hidden. And how do you do this? It's the Torah. The Torah that God gave our brothers and sisters, the Jewish people, over our ancestors, our Babis and Zaydis. By studying it, by observing its mitzvot, that's the way we create God in the world. That's the way we reveal Hashem in the world. And so if you're not feeling it, that's because Hashem is hidden. If you want to start feeling it, start doing a little of this Jewish thing, right? My friend Tuvia Book likes to say, to do is to Jew, or the opposite, to Jew is to do. Because when you perform a mitzvah, when you study Torah, it gives you the opportunity to connect and to feel something greater. And that's my bracha to all of you, to me, to all of us as we live in this God-hidden world. Let's reveal some of Hashem through his Torah, through his mitzvot. Shabbat Shalom.